course he did.
Maple leaf flag. Good pace. Are you serious? Oh my goodness! Glorious and free!
Gotta make one of these two, the Europeans. It never looked like it was getting there, but it's there. It's right in the middle. Look at Ram and now it's over.
He's all the way back. Kafka conquers the PGA Oak Hill.
Brilliant to the end. And on Seve's birthday, Spain reigns again at Augusta. And John Ram is the Masters champion.
Yes, golf fans, welcome back to the Putting for Dough show. Jack, just me and you this week. We don't actually know where Mark is, do we?
No, I think he's on a work do, but you think he's in another country. So we don't actually know where he is.
Could be back in Italy, but yeah, we genuinely don't know where he is. But all we know is he isn't here. So just me and you holding the fort for the week.
It is. Anything could happen, you know. All the carnage is going to happen tonight. I should expect.
No one to rein us in.
No.
I obviously wasn't on the show last week, Jack. I was in Edinburgh, so missed out. But how did you get on at the Cognizant Classic last week?
Yeah, it was okay. I cashed in on my double up, so my double up cash lineup's done well. I stayed on Eric Cole in that because obviously he was highly owned and he finished dead last, missed the cut pretty much. So that was a bit annoying, but I did have a good week with my 5 or 6s in cash. So cashed all over there. Cam Young ticket as well. He got tied third, I believe, in the end. It was a bit of a weird event, the Cognizant. I didn't particularly enjoy parts of it. They made that golf course very easy, which annoyed the hell out of me. Everyone that watches this show regularly and listens to me knows that I don't like easy golf courses, and I don't know what they've done. I mean, they changed that 10th hole into a par 5 from a par 4. I think they should be reverting that back to a par 4 next season. Obviously new sponsors, new design, and new sort of setup of the golf course. So yeah, it was a good week overall. I didn't watch as much golf as I'd normally watch because I didn't really like the event in the end, and it's a shame because it's a golf course and an event that I normally love.
Yeah, to be honest, with being in Edinburgh, I went super light because I just didn't have much chance at all to do any kind of research. But I did do a little bit of research into the course and the setup and completely reverted to type, as you and Mark said I would on the show, which, again, I didn't see, but I did go and play my man, Minwoo Lee. And do you know what? Even though I went super light, it wasn't a bad week. I had a Rasmus Holgaard-sized hull in my lineup. Other than that, 5 out of 6 through. Some small cashes in some DPPs. Not a bad week. I'll take it because, like I said, I went super light and, most importantly, took the lead for the first time this season, I think.
You did, yeah.
In the whole week. So, I don't know what's going on with you at the moment, Jack. You're not on a great run in that league, but yeah.
I just keep playing the wrong lineup in it. That's all. If I'd played my cash lineup in that this week, I think I would have probably beat you, Nick. But yeah, you got on the memory train. I was rooting for him on that last day actually because I'd played him in Showdown. He was part of my Showdown core, which I dropped in the Discord. So yeah, I was certainly rooting for him that day down the stretch there, and yeah, he likes it when the wind gets up, doesn't he, and things like that. Remember, he's an interesting player like that. Didn't really show a lot of form coming into that event last week, but nearly got the job done, and I think he's going to be very, very popular this week just because of his price. So I will probably stay away, and I think Nick will go back again.
No. Do you know what? When I saw his price, I was like, "Oh my god, surely not! That's a misprice." And obviously, we don't know what the ownership numbers are going to be, but understandably, when you get a golfer that's that talented, priced at 6,600, he's going to be highly owned.
Yeah,
and there's good reasons for that because he could turn up this week and really well. But the reason I'm off him this week, A, ownership, and B, there's just some of the underlying metrics this year with Minwoo that I don't like at this course. So yeah, I'm not there this week. However, there are some names that finished near the top of that leaderboard that I'm absolutely back to this week. Which I've no doubt we'll get into that as we go through, Jack. But yeah, I mean, we move on then, and this week this is where it feels like the golf season properly is kind of getting up and running now. It feels like we're on that kind of stretch to the Masters now, and we're at Arnold Palmer Invitational this week. Before we go through course data and stuff like that, Jack, in terms of newsletters, things like that.
Yeah, so
out now.
The newsletter will be out after the pod. I've literally just got to finish uploading it. That'll be out after the show. The season-long tracker is as up to date as it can be over on Fantasy National there. We've now got commitments for the Wells Fargo, the Travelers Championship, and the Byron Nelson. All the major fields are now getting loaded in as well, so it's really heating up over there with the season-long tracker. Make sure you take a look at that. DK listener leagues are open. We've got one for the Arnold Palmer, the winner of that will get into the Tournament of Champions at the Open Championship. We've also got one for the Puerto Rico Championship this week as well, which is the secondary PGA Tour event. There's some good names over there. Daniel Berger's playing the Puerto Rico, Cam Champ, people like that, etc. So there is a listener league open for that. If you win that, you won't get into the Open Championship Tournament of Champions. They're not all for that. But it's there if you want it. The DP World Tour there's a listener league for that as well, and there'll be a listener league for the Live event this week as well. So we've got a lot of golf this week. I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm actually interested in the Live event over in Hong Kong. I really like the looks of that golf course, even though it's only 6,700 yards long. It's
intriguing.
It's intriguing. I'm looking forward to that, to see what happens over there. That's another thing I've done as well, actually. So I released it. It's not quite ready yet. I'm still doing loads of little updates for it, but I've basically created a massive Live stat sheet that you can use for betting, playing DFS, etc. I put a tweet out the other day. What I'll do once I've updated it this week, which will probably be tomorrow now, but once I've updated it this week, I'll put another tweet out and people can use it how they wish, basically. If you want to use it for DFS, go ahead. And if you want to use it for betting, go ahead. But just obviously look at the key stats that are going to be needed on that golf course in Hong Kong. I think there's been a few events played there in the past. I'm pretty sure Rory McIlroy has won an event on that golf course, if my memory serves me well. So look at what the stats were in the past, to like the keys to winning at those places, at that place, and hopefully this stat sheet can help you out going forward. I know Mark's going to help me out on it eventually when he's back, hopefully in the country or back from his world too. Yeah, but I know Mark's going to help me out with that, and there's going to be a bit more to come for it. The idea is hopefully we can create something where people can use it to create their own model on it. But we really do need to put some more work into that. It's, as I say, but the beta version is out there for people to use.
I've really been enjoying the live events this year. No, I enjoyed them last year, but it feels like the roster is pretty talented now. So obviously some of the acquisitions that they've made this year with Ram and Hatton and people like that, but some of the earlier acquisitions, the likes of Wacko and like they're really coming into form. My lineup last week would have cashed had Graham McDowell had a better week, and he's just stunk the first 2 rounds. He was pretty good the third round. But I actually bet Gooch. I went with the narrative thing with him. He has played reasonably good golf, but I thought with the comments about Rory and the Masters and some of the stuff that had been said in the media that he might come out and play with a bit of a chip on his shoulder, try and prove himself. And he did play well, but just obviously not well enough. Joaquin Niemann is arguably playing the best golf in the world over the last few weeks.
Agreed.
Unbelievable, and absolutely deserves his place at the Masters, and very well could go on and win that.
That's the thing. Like, you wasn't here last week, but I'll mention it quickly again about Niemann. Niemann is actually going out there playing Asian Tour events. He's not just sitting there playing live. I know people just say, "Oh, but they've gone over to live, took their money, blah 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 blah, don't deserve anything." That might be the case for some of them. In particular, Taylor Gooch, who hasn't really gone and played a lot of these Asian Tour events. Niemann is going out there playing Asian Tour events. The same for Louis Oosthuizen. Oosthuizen's going out there playing DP World Tour events, winning them as well. I wish they'd extend it further. I wish they'd give a few of these guys some exemptions into the majors that are actually going out there trying to prove themselves, like in Oosthuizen, Niemann, and there's a couple of others on there, that are doing the same. But I think the Masters have made the correct decision, and the PGA Championship as well. I didn't like the news I saw tonight about the Open Championship saying that.
Yeah, I've seen
I don't know if you saw that, Nick. Saying about previous winners is only going up to 55 years of age now compared to what it normally was at 60. Tom Watson nearly won an Open Championship in 2009. He was 59. He was 59 when he probably should have won that Open Championship. I'm brutally honest. I watched that. I remember it like it was yesterday as well. I don't agree with that. There's lots of bad things happening in the golf world at the minute, but there is some good things. Like I say, the Masters giving the invite to Niemann was the correct decision, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. What did you make, Jack, of the? Before we move on, what did you make of the Liv withdrawing from the kind of ongoing? I don't know if it was a lawsuit or an ongoing application for the World Golf Ranking points. What did you make of that?
I think someone put this on Twitter pretty decent the other day. I actually think that Liv will now just buy up the other tours and they'll try and bury the PGA Tour. Sorry. So I've heard rumours floating around that there's 5 guys that are signed to go to Liv again. 5 more. I think Tony Finau's going to be one of them. I adamantly said this on one of our first episodes this year that I thought he was going to go. He makes the perfect candidate to go. He's got a massive family. So I think he'll be one that goes. And I'm not ruling out Rory at this stage. I actually think the way some of Rory's comments have been very interesting. But I actually think Liv will end up buying out the DP World Tour, and I can see a pathway to gaining points for that, gaining OGR official golf world ranking points through that, etc. But to be fair, the golf ranking system is dated. It's wrong. You know, for me, Joaquin Neiman's a prime example. I think he's a top, like you said, Nick. He's probably playing the best golf in the world right now. I think he's a top 10 golfer. And people, you know, people are so fickle. Like you see it on Twitter all the time. It's these live events mean nothing. They're just glorified exhibitions. Well, hang on. They've probably got the best fields now. Let's be honest. And Neiman is winning them. He's going up against John Rahm, Koepka, Bryson, Cameron Smith, DJ. Neiman's won 2 out of the first 3 events. So they're not exhibitions. They are very good quality events. Whilst I don't agree with a lot of things that Liv does, like I don't really like the team aspects, never really into team golf myself. Don't care for that. I don't like the non-cut events. I don't really like the only playing 54 holes. But there are... You can't say that field is not more stacked than any other field in world golf right now. And I think last week at the Cognizant proved that. I put a screenshot up on Saturday evening of the leaderboard. I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is with Liv is you're getting that every single week. Obviously, you know, this is as like a signature event this week. The players are turning up. Fine. The thing is with Liv is they're turning up every single event. You get in that same field.
Yeah.
Interesting if there is another 5, Jack, because like you said, McIlroy, who's been quite outspoken, seems to have changed his tune somewhat recently. I wonder if he feels like he was stabbed in the back a little bit by the talk.
I think he probably does. I think a lot of them do. You know, where is Monahan right now? You don't see him. You see Greg Norman at every Liv event. Pat Mayo said that the other day. Like, you know, you see Greg Norman at every Liv event. He's right. Yeah. You never see Jay Monahan. No. How the hell that man is still in the job, I do not know. The PGA Tour is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, like you said, Fino, that's been a rumour for a while. Cantley's been a rumour for a while. I wouldn't be surprised to see Victor maybe going over.
I think Victor's on the card. The PGA is now in danger of becoming a feeder tour to Liv.
Yeah.
That is the problem for the PGA Tour right now.
Yeah, that is. Very, very last thing before we do move on to Arnold Palmer. What did you make of the Anthony Kim circus this past week?
I didn't really care. I know you was a little bit intrigued by it. I didn't expect anything. I didn't expect him to come out and win the event, for example. Had I been able to put a bet on him to finish dead last in that field, I would have. I couldn't. So, yeah, I wasn't expecting much. He looks like he's had a good time, let's say that, over the last 15 years. I think that's probably the best way to put it, Nick. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens with him going forward. I think a successful sort of story for him to end the season would be getting a top 30 finish somewhere on one of these live events, because he's clearly not at the races at the minute.
No. I think, to be honest, like I was intrigued because you don't really see a story like that where, and he wasn't one of the top players, was he? He was like a young, up-and-coming, promising kind of prospect-type player, performed reasonably well in some events, won the odd event, I think, on the PGA Tour. You know, never really dazzling in any of the majors, but a couple of solid finishes. But it was more just the story of how long he spent away from golf, the whole kind of mystery whilst he's been away from golf of, you know, where is Anthony Kim, what's he up to?
I think the mystery.
I think the questions have somewhat been answered. But
I think he's had a good time.
Yeah, but then he comes back and it's like he's spent so much time away, and you know, if he hasn't really been playing golf during that time, what does his game look like now? And now we've seen it, but you know, there'll be some rust there. You know, there'll be some timing issues. You know yourself as a golfer, as do I.
Yeah.
If it's been a few weeks between one range session to another, or one, you know, getting out on the course, your timing can be off, and it's no different for the professionals either. This is how you see people having bad rounds. So it'd be interesting to, like you said, I think a tough outing for him and a lose-lose event, really, because the pressure was on, the cameras were all on him.
It was probably the right place to reintroduce him in Saudi, where there's no I think they were better off doing it there than offering him it'd been like lambs to the slaughter if they'd done that in the US. So.
And I think the format is right for him as well, because it's 3 days of golf, not 4.
Yeah.
There's no cut, so that it does somewhat take the pressure off his game. You know, if he has a couple of poor rounds, doesn't really matter. There's not really a consequence. He's getting his money. But it would be interesting to see as the season goes on and he's playing more golf and he's getting more into kind of golfing shape, shall we say, whether he does somewhat find his game again. But that's everything for the past week. Then let's move on, Jack. The Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill Club and Lodge. I like this event, but course preview, Jack.
Yeah, I like this event, but I'm hoping that it's been set up how I like it and not to suit the players. So we head to Bay Hill Club and Lodge, as you say, Nick, in Orlando, Florida. It is a Dick Wilson design in 1961, and then Arnold Palmer redesigned it in 2009. It's a par 72 at 7,466 yards long. Water comes into play on 9 holes here. It's Bermuda everywhere on the fairways, the rough and the greens. The historic winning scores around here are normally around 10 under par, and the average sort of cut mark is normally about 2 over. We have got a cut this week. Again, it's like what we saw at Riviera. It's going to be the top 50 and ties again from the 70-man field. So we're going to lose a few. Remember what happened at Riviera? The chalk absolutely got nuked with Justin Thomas, wasn't it? He missed the cut at Riviera, and he was massive chalk there. So you be careful, you lot going back to Minwoo Lee this week. I know that, but me and Nick will talk about that in a bit. But Bay Hill, like I say, is a proper golf course, and it's ranked as the hardest non-major golf course in 2023. One defining feature of Bay Hill that makes it the hardest golf course on the PGA Tour is the rough. They really let it grow out here. It's longer rough than what we saw at Riviera, longer than what we saw at PGA National, and most surprisingly, longer than what we saw at Torrey Pines. The greens here are larger in size compared to what we saw last week at the Cognizant, but they're lightning fast, and they will give most of these pros headaches this week. If you can remember back to 2022, John Rahm free putted here from 3 foot out. So that sort of tells you how fast. John Rahm's a good putter as well, so that tells you how treacherous these greens are going to be this week. We've got 84 bunkers, again 9 water hazards as I mentioned, tight fairways. It's a very difficult, challenging golf course that offers major vibes. I'm looking forward to it, as you are, Nick, but I'm praying that this is set up how I want it set up and not how the pros seem to be getting their way at the minute.
Yeah, this is the course that Bryson absolutely destroyed with his length off the tee a few years ago when he won it, which is, I think, driving distance is definitely a factor this week. Approach play is a factor every week, but on this course specifically, Jack, I think it's almost like added emphasis needs to be put on approach, because like you said, fairways are narrow. You find yourself in trouble. To get yourself out of that trouble, really, you need your club head speed's got to be up there. This isn't a course that is going to reward your steady swingers if they're not accurate off the tee.
No.
So I think, I'm not going to go through everything that's in my model this week, but that's kind of where I'm thinking is emphasis in terms of distance off the tee. I'm looking at accuracy off the tee. I am looking at course history, because there is a pattern here of golfers that come here and perform well every year and make cuts, and top 10s, top 15s, top 20s. Some of those golfers as well, I'm sure we'll touch on shortly, Jack, but some who are coming into a little bit of form in recent weeks as well.
Yep.
But yeah, that kind of emphasis on approach, and you'll find that a lot of the approach shots this week are going to be your kind of longer approach shots, your 175s, your 200s, your 225s plus. So long iron players paradise, but it's a tough course and it's tough to get good positions on the greens. You just want those kind of players that are giving yourselves the opportunities, really, I think.
Yeah. So within my model, I didn't, as you know, I always put notes next to my models like each year to see how they've done. This one had no notes next to it, which means it's good. So I'm looking at strokes gained approach. That is a key one here for me. Last year, Bay Hill ranked as the hardest course on the PGA Tour in strokes gained approach difficulty. And it has done in each of the last 5 years. You really have to be dialed in with your irons here. The water can come into play at any time as well. So if you're not dialed in with the approach game, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. I'm looking at sand saves. As I said, there's 84 bunkers on this property. You're going to need to be able to get up and down at points during the round here. So sand saves is quite an important one for me. Strokes gained off the tee, like you mentioned, Nick. Long-term proximity from 200 yards out. Strokes gained around the green. Par 5 scoring, because that is where you can get the scoring going. And, that's kind of one of the key sort of scoring stats I'm looking at this week. And strokes gained putting on Bermuda greens. We went back to Bermuda last week. I think I mentioned on the show with Mark last week, when you come to Florida on the PGA Tour, it's like a hard reset from what you've seen on the West Coast. Like you literally have like a hard reset. There's guys that putt better on Bermuda, and there's guys that putt better on Poa. Max Homer's a better Poa putter. Sam Burns, there's a reason why they called him Bermuda Burns. He's a better putter on Bermuda greens, for example. So that's what I'm looking at within my model. Again, I had no notes next to this model, so I fully trust it. And looking at my core last year, I see why I fully trust it. I got some pelters from my core here last year. I had Emiliano Grillo in my core, and he made the cut, and he had a very good finish here last year, I think.
Yeah. In terms of the way that you're going to be constructing your lineups this week, Jack, now obviously this is it's a competitive field. The fact that we touched on Minwoo Lee, the fact that you've got Minwoo Lee priced at 6,600 in this field shows how competitive it is. I said that I've got some concerns there, and I'm only mentioning because he's 6,600 and he's projected at the moment at like 17-18% ownership, which is unheard of really for a player at that price. You tend to get more of a balance in this kind of price range when it comes to ownership. There might be one or two that stand out, but not to that extent. In terms of the driving, I like the distance he gets. I like, the club head speed is there. Historically, his approach play has been reasonably good, and he turned a corner at the Cognizant, and he played really well there, tied second, gained six strokes on approach to the field, but he had lost strokes in his previous 4 events, and I'm saying 4. There's two events that are kind of wedged in the middle there in Australia, where we don't actually have the strokes gain stats. But I would think he probably did gain on approach on those ones, looking at his total strokes gained. But don't like that. He's not really ticking boxes around the greens. And though he's long off the tee, his accuracy is not fantastic. So I feel like he could be a bit of a chalk fade this week.
Yeah, he will be major chalk at that price. I'm going to fade him completely. I just won't play him. I don't like the history here. I don't think this course sets up for him particularly well either. So he's a massive fade for me. And if he burns me, he burns me. But we said this last week, Mark. I will fade these guys that get to this stupid high ownership in GPPs, because it's the way I play. So I play to win, but I also, the way that I play, I know that my lineups can finish dead last because, that's just the way I approach it. But if you're going to start from the top, Nick, I think we're back to a stage because we haven't got that 5K range this week, and I'm thankful that we don't have that. Me and Mark mentioned that in depth last week. Go back and listen if you want to. Me and Mark both hated it, and I'm over the moon that it's gone. So, what I think is going to happen is I think Cantlay is going to get squeezed at the ownership, even though he did have a T4 here last year, and I think you're going to see Scheffler and Rory pull the ownership between them. I think Rory will come in higher owned just because he's cheaper and his course history here is just phenomenal. Like he's absolutely brilliant around this place. So maybe Scheffler is the play to go to, but I mean we can do some builds shortly. But maybe you play both of them and then get different elsewhere.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think those are the two that are going to garner the ownership. To be honest, I do quite like Cantlay this week. I am in GPPs. I'm tempted to fade the top two and just jump onto Cantlay. That said, if Scheffler is even average with the putter.
Well, yeah, we say this all the time, though.
And I know there's got
he is tested out a new putter this week.
There has to come a point where he clicks. Surely there has to come a point. It could be this week at 11,300. I think it's good play, good price. We've seen him priced much higher than that. Rory, I do like as well, but like you said, I think there will be ownership there because of his course history. He's not been playing bad recently, but still something in his game that I'm just a little bit like, he's not quite there yet. He's not hit the heights.
I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I bet him this week, but I actually think he's really gearing himself up for a run at the Masters. I've got a funny feeling I'm going to rend. I never bet him at the Masters. But I've got a funny feeling he's going to try and really get himself going for that. I'm a bit like you. He's been a bit weird this season to start the season. Obviously, he had that win on the DP World Tour, didn't he? But everywhere else, he's been a little bit up and down. So it was a T21 last week. It was a T24 in Genesis, T66 at Pebble Beach. And he's lost on his 3 starts on the PGA Tour so far this season. He's lost strokes putting in 2 out of the 3 events, which I don't particularly like. But he's just green everywhere else. I mean, last week at the Cognizant, strokes gained off the tee, 6.1 strokes gained off the tee. He gained strokes on the approach last week, which was that was the first time on the PGA Tour this season that he gained on approach. His history around his golf course is just amazing. Like I said, he should have won here last year. I remember betting him here last year. He should have won. But Kitayama just beat him to it. But I don't know. I'm tempted just to start my lineups with both him and Scheffler. I think they'll probably come in similarly owned on the ownership wise there. Sorry, but I don't know. I could see Rory coming in higher owned in the end.
I think because of some of the pricing, I think there's a case for that Stars and Scrubs type lineup, and doubling up on both, or taking one of Scheffler and Rory and going with Cantlay. If you do want to,
I have a rule with Cantlay. I won't play Cantlay in Florida, so it's that's just a rule with Cantlay. I know he got a T4 here last year. I know he's in pretty good form. Probably should have won at Genesis. But I just have a rule with him in Florida on Bermuda. I just won't play him.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, I'm just going to dig into his putting stats now on Bermuda. Let's have a look. So bent grass is by far his best putting surface where he gains strokes, and Bermuda's by far the worst. This is why I don't play him in Florida.
Scheffler and McIlroy it is then. Is there, because of the ownership that you get in there at the top, is there a case at all to completely fade those guys at the top and go into the range beneath that, where there are some intriguing players, the likes of Orberg, shall we say, Spieth, Justin Thomas down there again at 9,000. I know he missed the cut of the Genesis, but was playing really good golf in the run-up to that. Is there a case to maybe just jam a few of these guys into your lineup instead?
Yeah, I mean, I think I quite like the looks of Xander and Aberg. I never play Jordan Spieth. If Jordan Spieth beats me, then Jordan Spieth beats me. That's fine.
I really like Spieth, this week, Jack.
You can like him. Me and you are going to completely disagree on it. I just won't play him. When it comes to these big boy fields, I don't think he can beat Scheffler or Rory, Cantlay, Hovland, Schauffele. I don't think he can beat those guys. So that's my thing with him. I will not play him. If he beats me, he beats me, and no doubt he'll make me look very silly on day one when he starts chipping in from every corner of the bloody golf course, which will tilt me like anything. But I just won't play him in these big boy events, personally.
Yeah, that's. I think the reason I like him is because he is a good approach player with his longer clubs. He's got good course history here. He had that disqualification at the Genesis, but prior to that, I think he was maybe T20 up to that point. But he was playing well. Would have absolutely had the charge at it, you would think. But I get where you're coming from. I just like the game. Like, he's a wizard around the greens. Like, the shots that he can make, I think really suits the course. Like decent driving distance. I know sometimes he can have a tendency to spray it somewhat, but I do like Jordan this week. But there's quite a few in this range that I quite like. Obviously, you've just mentioned Schauffele there. Hovland, he's not really hit the ground running this year massively, but his game towards the back end of the year was really good. There's a few players at the kind of lower end of this that usually do well here, like Max Homer. So I think there's a couple of players around this range, and even kind of the top end of the eights. Cameron Young's getting a lot of ownership, and I know you love a Cameron Young pick, Jack. Are you back there again?
I mean, again, very good course history around here. Bombs it off the tee. Very accurate off the tee as well, Cameron Young. I think it might be a bet for me again, because I do have a problem with this guy. I just don't want to be off when he finally wins. That's the thing now. He's had a relatively decent start to the season on the PGA Tour. He's gained strokes. He's gained off the tee in every event so far on the PGA Tour this year. Gained 5.2 strokes putting at the Phoenix there, and gained 3.9 strokes putting last week at the Classic on the Cognizant Classic. On the Bermuda greens, which I like to see as well. So I can see why he's popular. The course history here is decent as well. Can certainly see why he's popular. He's popping within my model as well. So I might just play him in cash this week, and that's kind of where if I'm going to start my build in GPPs with Scheffler and Rory, then I might just play Cam Young in cash. And I don't want another chalky piece as a part of my Rory and Scheffler build this week.
I think if you're going to play Rory and Scheffler, one thing I do like is there's quite a few names in the 7K range that are kind of hovering around the 7.5 and below that I really like this week.
Yeah,
where I thought the ownership might be a little bit higher, but it isn't. Adam Scott, for example, his ownership at the moment is not massively high, but he is hot at the moment. Jake Knapp, another one. His ownership is a little bit higher, but
Yeah.
like again, his game at the moment, fantastic. Eric Cole consistently has played really good golf for event after event, after tournament after tournament. Like, yes, he misses the cut last week. Does that drive his ownership down a little bit? Most likely. But if he plays the golf that he's capable of, especially at the start of this year, from like 10th at the Genesis, 14th at Pebble, 14th at the Century, 13th at the Derby, like his golf has been really good this year. He could make an absolute mockery of that price tag at 7,400. So I think if you're playing them two at the top, there's a lot of viable options down here, and the ownership is looking quite balanced as well.
Yeah, no, there's loads of guys in the 7K range that I like that are doing well within my model. Corey Connors is one. Adam Scott, like you've mentioned there. Harris English is another one. Keegan Bradley, fantastic course history around here, but he's getting some ownership at the minute. I actually really like Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler is someone I never really particularly get to, but he's got good course history. And if you're going to start with that Scotty Rory build, I mean, he's getting no ownership at the minute, what I'm looking at. 2.71%. I thought he showed some, I'm not going to say he played well last week because he didn't, but he showed some life. He made the cut. Again, was on the, on the Bermuda Greens. I'm just getting up his stats from last week, see how well he was last week. So, where is he? There he is. Yeah, he gained strokes gained. He gained off the tee last week, total, and he putted really well on the Bermuda Greens last week. So maybe he needed to get back to Florida to sort of rediscover the form that he had last week. And if he's getting no ownership down there at that price, as far as I'm concerned, he's someone that can win. So, or at least get us a top 5 finish, So I'm quite happy to play him down there at that low ownership at that price in my Scotty Rory builds. But there's others in there that I like I've mentioned. Bradley, English, Scott, Corey Connors, guys I particularly like. I didn't really mention some of those guys in the 8Ks that I like, but I like Cam Young, obviously. I like Matt Fitzpatrick on hard golf courses. Again, he showed some life last week, finally. He's got good course history around this golf course as well. Not someone I normally play, Matt Fitzpatrick, but I don't mind getting to him. If you like Jordan Spieth here, then you should probably like Fagala because I think they're just the same player. They spray it everywhere and do really weird stuff, like chipping in from nowhere and things like that. So I think Fagala's well in play there at that price. So yeah, I mean, there's quite a few within the range that I like. Again, I'd take another chance on Nikolai Højgaard as well. He's had an okay start to his PGA season so far. Finished second at Torrey Pines. Bombs it off the tee as well. Nikolai Højgaard, pretty accurate as well off the tee. So he's someone I like down there at that price as well. But yeah, that's kind of me within that range, I think, at the minute, Nick.
I like Jaeger down there as well. I like a lot of them names at kind of 7-6 and beneath. Even kind of up to like Benny Ann.
Yep.
There's very few names down there that I don't like. So yeah, I think it is absolutely a viable lineup build to start your lineup with both Scheffler and Rory and come straight down to this range and see if you can work your way somehow back up into the 8s, which you should be able to do with the pricing, especially if you could throw in, if you really strap for cash. I know we've both said we're both fading Minwoo. You've got Eric Van Rooyen down there at 6,600 as well, who's playing fantastic golf at the moment.
Yeah.
Granted, his course history is not good here, but
he's getting ownership though as well. That's another problem.
He is. Yeah, he is. But it's more just if you strap for cash, I think you can play someone like that, and the way that the ownership is balanced amongst these guys in the kind of low 7s, you can get different elsewhere in your lineup. Like, I'm not against playing someone like that just because he's garnering the ownership. His game is there at the moment. His last 2 tournaments, he's had a top 5 and a top 10. Yeah. So I'm not against that either. But I think there's a case for building that stars and scrubs kind of lineup and going balanced this week. And it would be, I'm tempted to do it like, how I play this game, Jack. I kind of plant my flag on a couple of lineups and I don't deviate from that. I don't max enter. I don't put 20 lineups in. I'm usually like, I'll build a stars and scrubs. I'll build a balance, and I'm quite liking the look of the balance, and maybe even just fading the guys at the top as well and seeing what you can build there.
That's fair. We can build them quickly. Like, just do a couple. I've got DraftKings loaded up, so we can do a couple on there. But if you want to, if there's a couple, I'll just give a shout out to a couple of 6K guys I like this week. So I like Grillo. Always like Grillo. Scores loads of birdies. Started the season well this year. Justin Rose, I know he hasn't been particularly great on the tour this season, but he's got, his most recent course history is not particularly good, but he has got 2 wins on this golf course as well. So he's someone that I like, quite happy to go back to. Obviously, you're going to be looking at Minwoo Lee in cash games. I don't hate it. Cameron Davis, bad course history here, but he is a bomber off the tee and he's pretty accurate. So he's not someone I don't mind. He's someone I don't mind playing. Nick Taylor's another one I don't mind playing down here. Just going right a bit further down. Let's have a look. If you want to try and get weird with Valimaki again, I suppose you could do that. Not particularly going to try that. Probably Putnam. I never really mind playing Putnam, and he's got good course history here. Finished 4th in 2021, so he's someone I don't mind using. I mean, if you really wanted to go down to Webb, you could. He finished T24 here last. No, he finished T24 here last year.
I was just looking at his name then, and I was like, "Do I say it, Webb? Do I say it? Do I say it?"
I'm not. I'm just saying, like, there's worse plays. Like I'd play Webb over Grayson Murray, Ford, for example.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
So and he finished T24 here last year when arguably he's been in horrific form. So yeah, don't mind any of that. Let's do a Scotty and a thingy build. I've got it up on my queue. I won't be able to get it up on the thing, but I just want to see how much it leaves us. So if we put Scotty and Rory in, it leaves us 7,025 basically for a player. So we could, so I like Putnam, didn't I? He was very cheap at 6,300. That gets us back to 7-2. The Rory Scheffler builders do it most, like, you can do it. I like Ricky. That would get us a bit different with ownership. That gets us back up to 7,350. And then I'm in this range here where I like so I like Keegan Bradley at that price, and then that'll get me back down to Harry. I'm back down to 7-3 basically. So I can have Kitayama, English, Højgaard, Jaeger, Hoagie. I'd put English in this lineup personally, and I don't really hate that lineup. But let's do your balance build, Nick, and we'll get ourselves out of it. Who do you want to start it with? And
go with. I know you like Schauffele, so we'll go with Schauffele and go with Oberg because he is a bomber. So
that leaves you 7,675 on average.
Throw in. Do you know what? Throw in Eric Cole.
Eric Cole at 7-4.
I do think a few put off him this week after what happened last week.
That leaves you 7,766.
I want to try and come back up to the high 8s if I can.
You have to go down into the 6s then. So
right, okay. Let's go down in the 6s then, and let's throw in. Throw in Valimaki just for the time being, Jack, just to see, because that lets us get like
that gets you 8,550 per player basically. You got 2 more spots.
2 spots.
Cam Young.
Yeah, the ownership's there, but do you know what? Throw him in because I think the lineup's different enough. 8-4 left.
Becky, Song Kim, Jay Day. I mean, if you want to get rid of Cam Young, you could put Fitzpatrick in, I suppose, and you could get back up to Wyndham Clark if you did that, I think. But it depends what you want. Do you want Fleetwood in here? We never really mentioned Fleetwood. I like Fleetwood here as well.
No, we didn't, but I do like him.
Because there's a rumour going around about Matsuyama that he's tweaked his back again.
Do you know what? Fleetwood takes us to 8-3.
Let's get Cam Young out to put Fleetwood in.
Yeah, do you know what? 8-3. I don't mind Day or Figala there. 8-2 and 8-1. I don't mind either of them there.
Day?
Yeah, Day would be
And
my
then
preference, I think, of the two.
That would leave you $100 if you wanted to move up to like what I mean. You could get Putnam or someone like that. Who we got at that range? Putnam or a Glover or a Taylor Moore.
Shank's down there as well at 6-2. That's not
Shank.
bad.
Yeah, so there's loads down there. Yeah. Interesting this week.
You could even, I mean, we've got two guys at 8 there. You could even just stick around the 7K range if you didn't necessarily want like a 6-2 or 6-3 guy, and you could probably stick at low 7s and jam a couple of them in. But yeah,
I'm going to try and do just a quick 9K. So I'm going to do a Hovland, Cantlay, go down into the 6s, put Nick Taylor in, so I like Nick Taylor.
You're putting Cantlay?
Yeah, in this build I am. Because you like Cantlay, so this is just I just want to see something. 7-8. I like Corey Connors at 7-8, so that gets me there. That takes me back to 7-9. If I come down a bit lower into the 7s and get back into the 8s, I want to stick Ricky Fowler back in this lineup again because I like Ricky. I do really like Ricky this week, and that takes me up to 8-7 for my last golfer, which is Cam Young. So I could get Victor Hovland, Patrick Cantlay, Nick Taylor, Corey Connors, Ricky Fowler, and Cam Young. I actually quite like that lineup.
Yeah, do you know, I like it as well. And again, if you didn't necessarily want to venture down into the 6K range and you just wanted to go, well, you could. Like, I know you like.
I don't think there's anything wrong going down in that 6K range because I think there's a few golfers that we've both mentioned tonight that can do some damage around this golf course. So
I agree. Yeah. But all I was going to say is, if you didn't necessarily want to venture there, some of the other names we've mentioned, the likes of Hogard, you could stay around that range, and you've got access to Grillo, Hoagie, Eckroat, whoever you want there. Justin Rose is there at 6-8. So there's like you can still. You don't necessarily need to drop to 6-5 if you want access to, obviously, the players in the higher price range. Then it's viable, but you can still make it quite balanced and still end up with a really good lineup, just kind of sticking around the low 7s, high 6s. So yeah,
I think this build will be the popular one, the popular start this week, and I think it's going to be Rory and Cantlay because it's very cheap. It leaves you with $7,350 on average per player. I'm not going to build a lineup out, but I think that's going to be a very popular start for people this week. So if you're playing single entry stuff, I would get away from that because, I honestly do think that'll be the popular start this week.
Yeah, definitely. We did have a question before we finish up, Jack, which was from regular listener of the show, Paul, and he said about. He was very vague with his question. It wasn't really a question. It was more just what we would think in terms of one and done. Now, we don't know who you've picked already, Paul, in terms of like golfers this season. But if you were to give one golfer in this field, Jack, one and done, who would you go with?
Yeah, see, one and done's a weird one as well. It depends how far you are behind and things like that as well. So you need to see what the rest of the field's doing. But if you're not far behind and you don't really care what the rest of the field's doing, Rory McIlroy, I'd play him here.
Fair enough. I think I would probably go Cam Young. I don't think there may not be many other places where you'll throw him in. So, yeah, I'll go with Cam Young.
Don't hate that pick either.
Hopefully you've not got either of them. And it's been good advice for you. Nice one, Jack. 54 minutes in. I think we'll round it off there. Any last bits from you?
No, newsletter will be out shortly. Listener leagues are open if you want to get involved, and head over to Fantasy National if you want to check out the season-long golf tracker.
Awesome. You can find Jack at JH4Do Media. You can find me at Nick of Wigan on the old X. Mark may be back with us if we've tracked him down for next week. Hopefully he is, and we will see you next Tuesday. Best of luck.